Welcome to the Margin Business Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Today we have another special guest. It's Chandler Walker, and Chandler is the co-founder of Stone Age Fuel. Okay, Stone Age Fuel, I think he would be the best here in place to tell us more about this, and as well to tell us a lot more about how he got to Stone Age Fuel, because what I've just found out, he's involved as well in biochemistry. Must have somewhere on the way picked this up in university. I'm not sure why, but he will explain everything about it. Please, Chandler, let us know where you're at the moment and where your entrepreneurial skills are coming from.
Yeah, good question. So I'm kind of I like to call myself an accidental entrepreneur because I was a young kid and I grew up with a mother who suffered from bipolar disorder. So I saw like the super highs and super lows of mental illness growing up. It taught me how to communicate from a neutral level, not get mad at people, just respect and meet people for where they're at, and ultimately don't push my ego onto them. And that led me to a med school path. And I wanted to push myself into an environment to where I could help people. I wanted to be able to say, okay, well, everybody told my mom, just smile, be happy. There's nothing wrong with you, which was a load of crap because she actually figured out how to get help and how to make herself better over time. And so I wanted to be the person who could be the catalyst to creating change in people's lives through medicine. But the problem was, as I was going through the med school pathway and precepting, I realized that my life was basically talk to a person, go in the back room, open a book, figure out what medication to give them, come back, give them their prescription, and send them on their way. And it's not a shot at doctors, it's the system. You have to provide medication. People don't want to do anything outside of that. And so that's just what you do. You put a Band-Aid on problems. And then you manage that long-term with consistent managed medication. So I broke off. And that's when I opened my first business, which was a brick-and-mortar wellness facility centered around 6 pillars of wellness, which was mental health, social health, sleep, nutrition, fitness, and habits. And I'm just a young, dumb kid coming out of med school. In med school, it's like, just put your head down, study, and never look at the world because you're too busy studying. In business, it's like, you have no idea what you're doing and you have to figure it out. And so that was kind of the beginnings of my journey and the sort of accidental entrepreneurship.
Wow. I mean, this is really good, I mean, finding out of all of this what you have done, then find the way out of it. It's wow, that's really something nice as well. So we talk about you being 18, 19 years old, trying to figure out how to do it, or how to go further. So what actually got you into entrepreneurship? I mean, from med school into selling pills or selling prescriptions. How did you move on? I mean, at some point when you do, I would even say it's like you said, you put your head down, you just study. I would say like that med school is not the highest place in order to learn how to do entrepreneurship. It's more like a very, very high level skilled task as well. I call it task because obviously you serve customers, you serve the community, you help other people with the prescriptions, everything. So it's not so easy, and it leaves a lot of I think it don't leave a lot of time in order to think a little bit out of the box. So let me know how this went on from there on, and where did you meet your first entrepreneurial breakout?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, med school is basically just like study, figure out how something works, and then figure out how to prescribe something for it. And it's systematized. Versus business, when you come into it in entrepreneurship, it's not systematized. It's basically figure it out. There's no manual, there's no schooling, there's no classes. The entrepreneurship class at the university is taught by someone who probably isn't currently an entrepreneur or hasn't done it in years. So there's no real clear pathway on what to do. So what I did was, as I broke off, my dad growing up, he was an entrepreneur. He had a business where they sold siding and windows and roofing. And so I had the experience of watching him go to customers' houses and talking and selling stuff. And he would always give me a donut and orange juice to go with him. So that was my bribe. And then I would watch him sell people and watch him work. And he would always talk to me about how you work all the hours. And he was like, Chandler, go work for the post office, just work for 20 years, get a retirement, don't be an entrepreneur. And I didn't listen to that, obviously. So then as I'm moving into this game, I think that gave me a little bit more confidence to come into it. Whereas most people would have been like, just put your head down, finish med school. You're doing everything you should be. For me, it just wasn't enough because I was about impact. So that gave me the confidence from my dad to be able to break off and really open this first place. And the first year was hard. I think I probably slept in the facility more than I slept at home. Like we would get up, it was a brick and mortar. So I begged, borrowed, and pleaded to bootstrap 50K to get that thing off the ground and running. And we were able to fill our doors when we opened. But the problem was I didn't understand how to build anything outside of myself. So coming into it, I was like teaching all the classes. I was working with all the clients, doing all the sales, and my partner was doing a lot of the operational stuff. And so the problem we found was we were working all the hours. And my little sister, she even came up to me and she said, Chandler, I think you're a vampire. She's like 7. I was like, why am I a vampire? What does that mean? She goes, well, you're never out in the day. I only see you. You're only up early in the morning and late at night. And I was like, man, I really have no life. This is it. This is like, I'm in the basement of entrepreneurship. So I had to essentially learn to remove myself from a lot of these processes, cancel programs that weren't profitable, adjust the entire business model to not only be profitable, but to be operationally efficient. So that way I could actually move from the role of everything to the role of head of growth. And I really needed to be able to focus on the growth of the business to scale it. And if I was stuck inside the business, there was no way to scale it because I was stuck doing everything.
And here we come from the main problem of all entrepreneurs. I mean, myself, I slid kind of myself into entrepreneurship, and then finally suddenly realized that actually I cannot work 24 hours. Same for you. So I needed to hire, and the structure began, and suddenly you find yourself in a 20 people strong agency, and you're looking back and you're like, oh, okay, now I understand how I got here. So. I mean, from going there, from where you at that point now, the 24-hour shifts, working hard and trying everything, how did you make the switch afterwards in order to have this product that today you have called the Stone Age Fuel? Obviously, I can see here that it was established in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. My eyes are not too, 2013. And the School of Fitness. So how did this transition, and how did you build out this concept? Because obviously when you're a coach or when you're a trainer, you either need to do it on Zoom, then you have a group like behind the screen. But if you do this old school, like in the gym or in a room, you cannot just do one-on-one. You need to have groups around, and maybe even trainers which you train, which can then multiply or even go and have other be as well there, be as well in other cities. How is that possible?
Yeah, good question. So basically, I'm the kind of person to where when I make a decision, I just do it. I don't even think about it. I just start doing it, and I put one foot in front of the other. It doesn't matter if I fail. I think I'm too dumb to quit. So I figure it out over time. And ultimately what happened with this business was I did 4,000 sales conversations by myself up front to figure out what people wanted, to figure out how to build a sales team. My partner's really good at operations. So she's really systematized and focused on just making the little things work. So she took that role on. And then at the same time, I thought to myself, okay, how can we enhance the client experience? How can we make this not just a gym where people go in to work out? So I thought, okay, well, what makes people successful in this world? Well, number one, it's mental health. If they're destroyed mentally, they're not going to do anything. If they're socially not there, and if they're in a destructive social environment, they're going to quit. If they don't have their sleep on point, they're going to quit and fail. So those 3 things have to happen first before nutrition or fitness can come into play. So I made those the focus of the beginnings of the program. And then we started talking about, okay, nutrition and fitness, then everything turns into habits. And so I figured out, okay, well, that makes people successful. That's what ultimately makes people win. And at the time, it was 2013. So there weren't a lot of business coaches and stuff like there are now. So we hired a business coach to essentially work with us. Our landlord ended up being a really good friend of mine. And I remember one day I didn't talk to him, and we forgot to pay our rent for like 5 days or something. And he wasn't even mad that we forgot to pay. He was mad that I didn't talk to him about it. And so he really taught me how important it is to communicate with people, even if it's something you don't want to communicate. And so he ended up giving us he was like, you know what, just don't pay rent for the next 3 months and put that all into marketing. So we hired a business coach and we built all these things. And ultimately what happened though was the business coach we hired saw our systems and essentially contracted us to help them build their own systems. And I to say this because like I said earlier, I'm just too dumb to stop doing things and figuring things out. So we essentially adopted our systems into this system, and that developed into a B2B agency for us as well. And so what happened was we built this business, and this business ended up doing so well that other people started asking us, like, how did you do this? How did that work? And at first I was like, I don't want to be a business coach. I don't want to help people. Just leave me alone. And eventually, after a while, there were so many questions and so many people, we had to turn that into a program. So I always say I'm an accidental entrepreneur because I was a young, dumb kid who came out of med school, built up this brick and mortar. The brick and mortar went well. We were eventually able to sell this brick and mortar. And then I took the concept of the brick and mortar, turned that into an app that we built and grew 1,800% year over year during the pandemic. And ultimately, all of this resulted in people saying, how did you do it?
Oh, that's amazing. That's really an amazing story. And you know, I don't know if you know the story, and I think I forgot the name of that of that entrepreneur as well, but he was in kind of exactly the same situation as you many years ago, and then he was beginning to build the first gym. They were trying to sell I think some courses per month, and then they say, yeah, why don't you pay 6 months front? Well, you know, it's better for you. Why don't you pay 1 year up front? And then why on top of it, after 3 months, you just don't take some supplements on top, like a package of supplements for $200 worth, you know? And it was going on and on and on until he was one of the largest US bodybuilding centers in the world, and was selling his prescription brick and mortar prescription per month, per 6 months, per 1 year, and even franchised all the system. It's a complete crazy story, and I forgot the name. But maybe you have heard about this one as well.
Yeah, I think I have. It's an interesting story of how you go from essentially like, this is what I want to do, to in a position to where you have multiple product offerings, you have a systematized business that scales, and then you have other people asking you how you did it. So it turns into a consulting arm of the business. And so I think it's an interesting story. And I think the story usually happens from people who don't necessarily intend to have it go that route, but build and grow the thing to where you not only have like a horizontal application of products, but a vertical application as well.
No, definitely. It was on the million, I think my first $1 million podcast, something like that. If I'm not mistaken. But anyway, what I wanted to ask you as well is, where do you see your company going in the next 5 years? I mean, what is your plan for the product? Are you in any way want to go back somewhere in maybe brick and mortar, or are you simply now agency model, digital entrepreneurship?
I think at this point, because we were able to build the app and we're able to scale and build such a strong remote foundation, remote's probably where we'll be forever. Brick and mortar, I mean, looking back, your expenses are so much higher. You have to keep the lights on. You have to have someone like plunge the toilet and take care of the bathroom. And when stuff breaks, someone has to fix it. It's like, if you're operationally efficient in a brick and mortar, you're running at like 26% profit margins. Versus a remote-based business, you can operate 50% or higher, which it makes no sense to go back into a brick and mortar. So at this point, we have the Stone Age Field brand, and we have a media company now. So we run ads, we scale businesses, help build their sales teams, and we call that Elite Ads. And so I think at this point, there's essentially only one route, and that's remote. Going back to brick and mortar would be like, here, have all my profit margin and enjoy it, and let's just burn it and light it on fire.
Definitely. I agree completely with what you're saying, because we have seen this lately with COVID. And I think if we would have been in an office with all our employees and all the everything to pay, everything what you needed, and like you just mentioned, I think we would not exist anymore anyway, you know. So definitely it's the way to go digitally, and focus even more on it. Few more questions. What does motivate you to get up in the morning? Are you driven by like your everything, what is around you, money, success? What is it? What is it that gets you up in the morning?
Yeah, good question. I think for me, because I've been in the road where we've had the money life, to where you're spending money, you're renting out golf courses and country clubs, and we're just boozing it up. And I think for me, it builds a sort of an empty foundation. Everybody thinks, as they're growing in this game, it's about the money. I want to make $1 million. I want to make the whatever, 10 million, 7 figures, 8 figures, 170,000 figures. But I think once you hit those points, it doesn't even matter anymore. It's just money is money. What is an extra million going to do for me? What is money going to do for me on my deathbed? Nothing. I can wipe my tears with it and maybe light it on fire to stay warm, but it doesn't really do anything for me outside of that. And so for me, what really keeps me up or what wakes me up in the morning is I have a little 4-year-old daughter, and my family and my wife and my daughter and everything. Like, at the end of the day, when you die, nobody's going to care. And it sucks to say, but nobody's going to remember you. You're going to be forgotten about in 6 months to a year. But the people who will are your family. Like, my little girl's going to remember me forever. She's going to outlive me. Like, hope, we always hope, but she's going to outlive me, and she's going to remember me for the rest of her life. And then she's going to talk about me to her kids and grandkids. And so that legacy is really what I want to build. And all that matters to me is that family unit. And when I wake up in the morning and I see that little girl, she's 4, and her smiling face, and when she comes in and kicks down my office door, because there is no locked door in her life, it's the coolest thing in the world. You have, like, and I never recognized this when I was younger. I was like, no kids, I just want to work and build. But now it's like you have this little person who depends on you, this little person who you're their entire life. And so when I think about that, it's like, that's what I want. That's all I want to focus on is her and just my family. And that's all that matters, because at the end of the day, those are the people that are going to remember you. Those are the people that aren't going to forget about you. And those are the people that are always going to stand behind you.
No, definitely. It's a great motivation. And I think it's one of the best motivations you can have, when your little kid's grabbing you in the morning, and you know that for them, you do this, and for the legacy as well. I think it's really good. One more funny question for you is, would you rather spend 1 year at the North Pole or 2 years in the Sahara Desert?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna have to say the Sahara Desert. The cold sucks. I was like, a long time ago, I decided I'm retiring from the cold. And so I'd rather sit there and be hot and miserable than be cold and miserable.
No, definitely. It's if I would think about being at the North Pole, whoa, for 1 year, it's pretty cold, pretty dark, pretty it's not my thing, really. So I prefer as well the Sahara Desert. Can you just let us know where anyone who's interested to work with you or wants more information to contact you, where's the best email address or website or LinkedIn? Where can we catch you best?
Yeah, so I get a lot of entrepreneurs who need help and really want the support to grow a sustainable business. And so one thing we do is we help build and scale businesses through paid ads and paid media, video editing, and ultimately a foundational sales system that gets like 3 times return on whatever your investment is. So if you're interested in learning how the ad science system works, just go to adscience.com and you can watch a little free training. It's me talking. And then if you're interested in working with us or have questions, just follow me on Instagram, Chandler_SAF. And you can DM me and ask me any questions, but go to scienceofads.com, opt in, watch the training. If you like it, maybe we can work together. If not, then tell me why you didn't like it so I can make it better.
Okay, amazing. That's great. So just to cover everything up, you running ads, can you just explain quickly what are the main core points, what your company does, and what is your superpower?
Yeah, so my superpower is I can essentially turn nothing into something. And so what I've learned in our business and brand is it's really hard to build a sustainable foundation in the health world. You have a lot of competition. It's hard to set up pricing. And so I've seen a couple thousand different health offers. I've built my own. And so we can take an offer that's like, I help people lose weight and turn it into something that actually it makes sense and differentiates you in the market. Or someone, for example, the typical business offer is I help you get to 10K a month, which nobody cares about because everybody does it. So we help build solid offers that are going to stand and have a foundation to grow on. The other skill that I've acquired that's helped us tremendously is the ability to run paid ads at scale and treat it as a science. So we take it, we create a hypothesis, set a foundation for the hypothesis, test the hypothesis, and then grow and scale based on what we find and discover, which is next level for actually running ads.
No, definitely. I think this is really important. There is a lot of agencies out there which are doing ads, but the ones who really scientifically know how to do it are only a few. And I'm sure you are one of them. And I'm sure, if anybody have any questions, because our channel, a lot of Amazon sellers, a lot of e-com sellers, which have bigger companies, I'm quite sure to drive outside traffic, they will need you. They will need to ask some questions. So I leave it up to them. And thank you so much that you've been here today, Chandler. And I wish you best of luck for your business. And I'm sure our ways cross again, maybe in another podcast, maybe maybe at some point we can work together. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I like it. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully we gave some value. And remember, just one foot in front of the other. That's all it takes to take over the world.
Thank you so much. Great.